was starting a little early because I wanted to share a beautiful message by Fulton Sheen. We won't play the whole thing, but we want to give it a little bit of love because he is an awesome bishop.
We try to make the intensity of a sex experience atone for a want of a purpose in life.
Are you distressed by the fact that in many cases you have men and women living together without marriage?
Yes, and principally because it is the destruction of love. Now, when you're speaking of the family and these new customs that have sprung up, we have only eros, the erotic love. We have a love in which the ego projects itself into another and says, I love you, when all that is loved is the pleasure that is found in the other person. And this kind of love is the destruction of the family and the destruction of the human person. As a matter of fact, I believe one of the reasons why we have so much neuroses and psychosis is this tremendous affirmation of the self. I gotta do my thing. I have to have my pleasure. You bend yourself to my will. When real love does not mean to have and to own and to possess. It means to be had, to be owned, to be possessed. The ancients were right in giving Cupid an arrow, something that wounds, something that sacrifices self for another. Do these people ever show love, for their neighbor and for the downtrodden? No, it is generally for the satisfaction of self. So this kind of life is producing neurotics and psychotics in our civilization.
You mean more so than ever?
More so than ever, yes. People today are without goals and without purposes. That is one of the reasons why our civilization is erotic. We try to make the intensity of a sex experience atone for a want of a purpose in life. Just as when we're lost in an automobile, we drive faster.
Pedal connection?
Oh, yeah.
OBD connector?
That's awesome. And one of the things that Fulton Sheen was so famous for is showing the love of natural things, of things that are uh, tangible. He wasn't just out there in the ether. He was able to, give us these great connections and stuff that, you know, uh, makes us human, right? He wasn't in the ether and all about fanciful things and not. So we got Ursula coming up in a minute. So she is coming. And we wanted to talk a little bit about a new movie that's coming out. This movie is basically we have the new John Wick. All right, 1 second. We have a little bit of a technical issue here. Um, hold on 1 second. But let's see. All right, let's see. Okay, 1 second. So we're gonna go to is one of our stories right now because Eric Adams, who is the mayor of New York, has just recently said he was indicted. So we're gonna leave him with the words for a second, as I see about this technical issue that we have. So
fellow
let me
New
see if you guys
Yorkers.
can hear it.
It is
And
now my belief,
here we go.
my fellow New Yorkers, it is now my belief that the federal government intends to charge me with crimes. If so, these charges will be entirely false, based on lies. But they would not be surprising. I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target, and a target I became. For months, leaks and rumors have been aimed at me in an attempt to undermine my credibility and paint me as guilty. Just this past week, they searched the home of our new police commissioner looking for documents from 20 years ago. just 1 week after he joined my administration. Enough. I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent.
All right. Here is Ursula. Welcome everyone to Indignant Desert Birds. Fletcher has gone off to fetch some technical resolutions for us today. We hope that you've enjoyed our intro with the inimitable Archbishop Fulton Sheen of beloved memory. May he rest in peace. His cause for canonization is active. He was talking about how love and sex have gotten really mired in contemporary society. And even though he was saying that probably 50 years ago, we can say that's no less true now as it was in his time. And then we've just watched the really, I think, very compelling video by Mayor Eric Adams defiantly addressing the charges. And honestly, I've been watching some of the chatter about this. Some people think, yes, he's corrupt. He's a New York politician, and that's no doubt true. But there does seem to be something very eerie in the timing.
Right.
And I wonder about that. I think some people say the only reason he's being targeted right now is because he really stood up against the powers that be about the immigration crisis in his city. And some people don't like that. Or he has some connection with what's going on with the P. Diddy indictment situation, and that, you know, this was maybe a cover for that of some sort. They are saying that he took bribes or something, or had an improper campaign contribution from a foreign agency or entity from Turkey, I think, which seems a little bit far-fetched, although maybe not. But you always have to wonder when someone who's high up gets in trouble, because a lot of times it seems things are pushed under the rug, or people look the other way, and then maybe he said the wrong thing to the wrong person. He didn't pay the proper honor, kiss the right rings, or maybe stepped out of line, and then that happens. I think people are very cynical today, and I don't think it's without good reason.
Right. It seems like there's something going on there. There's a lot of stuff going on in New York. I mean, a lot. So it does look like there could be something that could be a blowback or something like that. But
I mean, he was really getting outspoken, Fletcher, about the being overrun by so-called migrants. He was not happy about it. And I think that's not really what you hear from people who are Democrats. And I think he ruffled some feathers. And then maybe when you ruffle feathers, you don't have the protection you normally get. Because, I mean, a lot of politicians are doing crooked stuff, but you only hear about some of them, falling under the knife. So,
yeah, it does look like it's a little bit it's a little bit sus, but what are you gonna do? It's one of those things to where you live in the glare of the lights, and things are about the jumping off and something like that. So it doesn't seem too far fetched. I mean, a lot of stuff is happening. We saw recently that tensions in the Middle East were rising, but then as soon as it started rising and another things happening, we're going to talk about it in a second. We did have visit from Zelensky to visit with Vice President Harris, which is neutral because it doesn't feel like she met. I guess he met with Congress, he met with other people and stuff like that, and then you're just going to campaign in a sense. But we have $8 billion in weapons going to. I mean, $8 billion. That's insane.
yeah, that's surprising. I mean, when you think about it, how much money we need for veterans, what we need for a lot of people who are unhoused, for so many people who are in school, who are struggling, it just seems like a lot to be sending to another country for defense for them.
Right?
It seems like a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
You
you're just
imagine
over.
what cities could do with $8 billion. We have a crisis for homeless people. We have a crisis with veterans who are also struggling with mental health issues and who need help and who have served our country. We have a lot of poor people who are from this country. So it seems like a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just basically don't know where it's going with this. We don't know exactly what they're doing, because I think it was another report that basically said that uh, he only gets like a percentage of it. Right? There's not. It doesn't really like all go um, to that cost, should we say, or the military backing. But um, this is almost like, I mean, you're saying that you need this much amount of money, right? You need this amount of money in weapons, but it's just like, wait, you just don't know where the none of the oh
I just don't think a lot of people feel, I mean, listen, prices are high. We're struggling. A lot of businesses have been going out of business. There's indications that people are spending much less on disposable items, sort of going out to eat and leisure activities. I just don't know why we would take on something like this. I mean, if it were really in the line of our own self defense, it makes sense, but this doesn't seem like it's a primary target that we would need to spend that much money. I do think it's interesting too that Zelensky, if I'm saying his name correctly, has seemed to be here in the United States campaigning for Harris. So that's also kind of suspect. Some people have been saying it sounds like election interference. He's been here saying vote for Harris. Well, I guess because he thinks the gravy train will keep going to his country. I think that's a funny thing to say when you don't actually have any stake or should have no stake in another country's election. So very,
yeah,
very strange stuff happening right now.
no, it is strange things, because you're kind of like going, where exactly are they kind of going with this, I mean, he's there with um people of the um the I guess he was in house the Capitol Hill today, I guess. So this is what they were kind of going on about.
Pennsylvania. Republican lawmakers in the House did not like that all now. Moments ago, that is President Zelensky out of Ukraine. He has been in the United States now all week. He had a stop in D.C. now. Early in the week, he had what is considered to be a controversial stop in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
Right, he's out there campaigning in Pennsylvania you have a foreign dignitary, warlord, the thing, whatever you want to call him, campaigning in a battleground state. Not only that, a battleground state where the former president had an attempt on his life.
Isn't that insane? I mean, I don't know what other municipality, country, sovereignty would put up with this. I don't know why we put up with this. I don't care what side you're on. Democrats and Republicans, you guys all know I'm neither, should not be okay with this kind of thing. This is not who we are. What in the banana republic is this? And I don't mean the clothing store, which is a very nice clothing store.
You do like Banana Republic. But this is what JD Vance had said about it.
It would end the war in Ukraine.
So,
to what Zelensky said, and can you detail how a Trump-Vance administration would end the war in Ukraine?
Well, look, the details for how Donald Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine is by not being weak and not being dumb, which is unfortunately something you can't say for the current administration. It's very simple.
How do you put up with him, Fletcher? Fletcher.
He's the best.
Fletcher, he's not the best. He is so, I don't know what to say about this. Are you serious? He is not the best. He talks way too crudely for my taste. I don't like that. By not being weak and not being dumb. This man doesn't
There you
sound
go.
like
Not
somebody.
being weak. Well, that's kind of like the simple thing, right? You're kind of
I
going,
don't care for that at all. My goodness. I mean, at least he doesn't like talk all around the issue like Kamala Harris does, where she goes to the word salad stuff. But I don't think he needs to be so direct. I mean, say it in a way. He went to law school. This is an educated man. He has a bachelor's degree and a law degree. I think you can express yourself a little better than by not being weak and not being dumb. Well, I mean, obviously he's talking to his people. So
Right. No. I mean, I think he's the kind of guy who kind of this is a meme generation, right? This is it's just
he sounds
you
like,
kind of go
I'm
on a
sorry.
thing, yeah.
He went full hillbilly with that. That's hillbilly elegy right there. I can't
Well,
with that.
that's his
But not being
cachet,
weak
right?
and not being dumb. We're not going to be weak.
Right.
We ain't going to be dumb. Are you serious? People already think we're dumb in America. He doesn't have to talk like that. The fact is, he's right, though. I mean, obviously, Zelensky shouldn't be here campaigning for Harris. That's ridiculous. I don't care what side you're on. Like I said, we don't want foreign election interference. Where's everybody who's complaining about Trump with the Russians, but you're okay with Ukrainians? Why is he over here? I mean, I don't think he should be out here talking to people about the election. Can you imagine if anyone from the United States was over in Ukraine or anywhere in Eastern Europe or anywhere in Asia or anywhere being like, you need to vote for X, are you serious? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's one of those things to where you're kind of like, going, what are you gonna do? But yeah, it's.
And I agree with Charlie Kirk there. He says that it's ungrateful. It is ungrateful. We've, like you just pointed out, we've given billions of dollars to Ukraine. You should be here saying thank you if you're gonna be here.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you don't understand where this is coming from, because I've never seen how bolden it is. I mean, part of it you do see. I mean, we will talk a little bit about the things, the shenanigans that are going on right now in the Middle East, because that's almost the same. You have when Netanyahu comes to the United States, he does have that swagger like Zelensky does, to come in and it's like, hey, where's my cash, right? It's the same thing. I don't know. You want to finish hearing what your cousin says, or do you want me?
You can finish if he doesn't take too long.
All right.
Russia didn't invade a single one of their neighbors for the 4 years that Donald Trump was president. And on the president before him and the president after him, somehow Russia keeps on invading their neighbors. It's because they don't respect American leadership and because our leaders aren't smart. So what Donald Trump brings back is not just strength, but intelligence to the Oval Office. And I think that's really all you need to end this war, because, look, it is not in America's interest. It's not in Ukraine's interest. It's not in Europe's interest for this war to go on indefinitely. Now, you said that Zelensky criticized something I said. First of all, that's not a plan. That's me talking about one possible scenario for how this thing might ultimately end. But look, I don't appreciate Zelensky coming to this country and telling the American taxpayers what they ought to do. He ought to say thank you to the American taxpayers.
And I agree on that point. That's that's kind of on point, right?
Yeah, I think that's on point.
Let's say
I think
what's up, Jen? Great to see you over here.
Jen.
And we got David Glenn. Sorry I'm late. See, we started late, David. We were thinking about doing the 5 a.m. Actually, we woke up so early today, we probably could do the 5 a.m.
No, we're going to do the 5 a.m. But listen, I think that whether or not Trump can bring it into the war, I'm hoping we can bring an end to the financial bleeding. I think, like you pointed out, with the $8 billion, directed towards Ukraine, that's a lot of money. It's too much money. We don't have that money. Our country's already in a deficit. So I don't know if Trump can bring an end to the war. Wars are a difficult thing, but I think we can bring an end to, let's not give so much money that we don't have. So
no, it's one of those things that's kind of crazy. I mean, come on, man. We
for sure.
We don't need to be paying that much stuff to. There's so much need in the United States alone, but you sent me this. So basically, last week, I guess it had Oprah had a little adventure with VP Harris, and I saw parts of this, and I gotta say it was a bit of a cringe fest. I do. Somebody was, they were kind of saying I was a little bit unkind, because I felt like it was like out of a Batman you know,
Batman,
thing,
in what
like the
way?
old school Batman,
And
because
what
come on,
Batman?
come on,
For
Ursula. I
people who
mean,
are
look,
not comics nerds like you, explain.
well, they're basically dressed like Batman villains. They have
Oh.
the bright color, like, and
That's
look,
funny.
everybody in the background, you got the deep purple. It's like, it's like the Joker and the Penguin are
That's
like
awesome.
talking about how they're going to take over Gotham.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, you're right. So the funniest thing that was funny, Fletcher. One of the funniest things that I saw was someone doing basically an internal dialogue in Oprah's mind as she's listening to Kamala. And it was so hilarious. Like, I mean, it's not completely family friendly, so we won't do it, because there's a point in which she starts to fantasize about, her boyfriend, Stedman Graham, her like long-term boyfriend, rescuing her from this, and them having a little tryst or something that she comes back to and is saying, Kamala, answer the question. Oh my gosh, what are you saying? What are you doing right now? You're tanking like crazy. And it's one point in which a lot of people noted that it seems Oprah really rescued her. So I guess someone from the audience asked the question about, what are you going to do to secure the border? And she takes like 90 seconds, I think, or maybe more, to I agree with Jen. Her face was a giveaway. It's like, Oprah's like, lady, we're trying to help you here. Like, this is a nice audience for you. And she just had to be rescued, because Oprah's face was like, I think Trump later said Oprah looks like she wants to go under the table, because it was kind of an embarrassing response, because it wasn't direct and clear. That question's coming, or you should.
Right. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. This is scripted.
Yeah, it kind of is. I'm sure that person in the audience they knew ahead of time he would ask that question. They probably had on a card and had to answer. So Oprah basically, at the end of this really long kind of, as people have been calling them, word salads, at this end of this long kind of circuitous answer, Oprah said, okay, so you're saying you're going to try to get that bill passed again that would get the border secured. Like, Oprah's been doing this for a long time. It's been about 30, 40 years she's been on.
Yeah.
So she,
oh my gosh, they have the
somehow. Oh, it's so funny. This is the one I think that actually has the the little dialogue, which is
when you become
it's funny.
president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. My background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. Let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here. So I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country.
Oprah's now fantasizing about leaving the room,
coming into our country and addressing that.
I can't believe the guy's still standing up. He's like,
in terms of its
what
effect.
is she even saying?
The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. And it would have been part of the
She's
solution.
saying transnational, right?
And Donald
I think
Trump
she said transnational, yes.
Called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why?
You're like, is she high right now? What is
I know,
going
right?
on? What are you doing right now?
You're like, hello?
Listen, she still didn't answer the question. It goes in another minute. Let's not torture our audience.
Right.
But Oprah then basically just rescues her by saying, okay, so kind of to get to the point, but she doesn't say that. She says that she's much more diplomatic than that. So what you are saying is you would X and then kind of does the question. I think, obviously this is not Kamala's strong suit. I mean, whether you like her or not, and I respect people who like her. I'm liking her less and less in the last couple of weeks, honestly. Some things are coming out about her that I don't enjoy, but even if you like her a lot, you got to understand she's not good at this part. This is not her thing. That she's not good on her feet, even when it's not really on her feet. As you pointed out, Fletcher, she probably would have been prepared for that question.
Right. No, that's the thing. She's been given all these questions. And that's the shocking part. The shocking part is that she's been given on this question and she's still kind of like butchering it, shall we say,
It's like a lack of confidence. And the fact is, listen, I don't think it's wrong to start with what my experience was, but then you have to pivot at some point to what the reality is now and what you would do now. You know what I mean? It's okay to start with, I was born a poor Black child.
I was born a poor Black wife. Well, I used to live in that town. We used to upkeep our grass. But Madam Vice President, we're asking about, fentanyl crisis. Sure. Well, we keep our grass low.
We keep our grass low.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe these are code. So keeping the grass trimmed is, it's code for, where you get the good stuff at, right?
Now we're gonna give a disclaimer. Though we got this off Breitbart, we're not endorsing Breitbart. Both of us have. If you watch this from the beginning, we're not Breitbart supporters. But it's sometimes hard to get things from the mainstream media. They don't always want to highlight when Kamala doesn't do well. And so you sometimes have to go to alternative sources to find them. And this one is really funny, I have to say. The person who you're not showing at Fletcher, but they kind of, again, do this kind of fictionalizing dialogue. And it's actually pretty funny. If you want to look that up, you guys, you can. It's kind of funny.
Well, check it out. Something else you told me about. So basically it looks like they're having separate town halls or something in Univision. And I was like, I don't know what exactly they would do that, but I guess this is not going to be another debate.
I don't understand it. Why don't you explain it to me, Fletcher?
All right. So this is from the Daily Caller. Tolerate Univision, right? My mom watches it. And so it says Harris Trump agreed to hold separate town halls on Univision. The Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump are gearing up for 2 town halls in October aimed at engaging the Hispanic electorate. Univision announced on Tuesday. Univision will now host 2 separate moderates by journalist Enrique Acevedo, allowing for both candidates to address concerns from undecided Hispanic voters. According to a Spanish language network, Trump will appear from Miami, Florida on October 8th, followed by Harris from Las Vegas, Nevada. Oh, man. Come on, man. Vegas needs good stuff, not bad stuff. From October 10th, with both events set to broadcast 10 p.m. with Spanish translation. So I guess there's more than 35 million Hispanics eligible to vote in the U.S., making them the largest minority in the country with the power to influence the outcome of the race for the White House and the future of the nation. So Daniel Cornell, president of Noticias Univision, said in a statement. So I guess they're participating in the. It's funny because it's not like dueling. It'd be funny if like Trump was on Telemundo
and she was
like Televisa, like Televisa, and then he was, and they would be at the same time. That would have been
that might be interesting. So Fletcher, what do you think as far as obviously they're talking about going after the Hispanic vote. What is your take on where the Hispanic vote, if you can think of it that way, lies between Trump and Harris right now?
Well, I know for a fact that if you're a conservative, Hispanic voter, there's no question on it. I think a lot of sometimes when they have this undecided, they're seeing a lot of stuff with people who are basically um, like college educated kids and stuff like that, or college professors, people that work for the government. That anybody that works for government, there's 90% Democrats, so they're not gonna get their bread and butter. So when you're talking about people who work in those kind of industries and stuff like that, you do have a heavier lean on the Democrat side. Whereas, if you're talking to people who are ranchers, if you're talking to people who have, like small businesses and stuff like that, it was Trump all the way. Even if they don't say it, like if you ask them, like if the news were to come and ask them, they would either say nothing or say, "Yo, definitely Democrat," right? Because the people know the game. They know that when you come from a country that basically squelches your political voice, you're not going to voice it out. So a lot of times, I think a lot of these people, they say, "Oh yeah, all the Latinos and all stuff," but it's like, yeah, is it really all the Latinos, or are they just telling you kind of want to hear? Because nobody wants to get in trouble. Nobody wants this
So
to be a
what's your
blowback.
take then? Let's have you not Kamala Harris this. Where's
All
the
right.
Hispanic vote?
Well,
Give me a clear answer, Fletcher. Where do you think Hispanics? I mean, at the end of the day, there'll be a majority that go one way or the other. So what do you think is going to be?
well, my father had a good lawn, and he used to call it a pesto.
Oh no, here we go. So you don't want to be held down to. That's okay. You don't have to come down to an answer. I mean, I could surmise that I think it might be closer than ever. I still think it'll probably more often go to Kamala, just because Hispanics, people of color, blacks, they still tend to think that the Democratic Party does the most for them. They haven't reached out to think about what the Republicans might do for them as much. Not that there aren't any. Also, I do not think that many go for the third parties that much yet, although maybe some will this year. I think it's going to be unusual, but it could surprise us. There could be a majority. I doubt it's been too long a period of time for blacks voting en masse for Democrats. So I don't think you'll see a big majority or a majority go to Trump, but I think there'll probably be more than ever. I think they would, because a lot of black men have issues with Kamala because she apparently put a lot of black men in jail when she was a
Right.
prosecutor, and often for very minor things, like marijuana possession.
No, I
Um,
agree. So it
so
does look like a little bit of a shifting tie on that. But I do think that you still have, like I said, all those Latinos and all stuff that work in government or anything that works with, academia and all that kind of stuff, which is a large percentage of folks, are definitely going to keep voting, keep voting Democrat. I know some of them might not, they do kind of like one of those, there's nobody's inside with me in the voting booth type deal, where they might say something, but it might be something else.
Well, my family likes Kamala. I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's some exceptions, but I think so. They have faith in her ability, even if she doesn't always articulate what her vision is and where she's going with this. So I don't know. I guess, so, like you said, no one goes in there with you in the voting booth. And I think you made a good point that polls can be really misleading, because people, as you say, especially with people of color, they may not feel, especially people from a different country who are people of color, like you said,
Right.
people from countries where you can be honestly persecuted for being a dissident, are not going to necessarily tell you honestly, for whom they're voting. So I
Right.
think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where you're like, hey, what are you gonna do? But one thing that couldn't be helped, it looks like the updates from the attacks yesterday, if you guys don't know. So what's been happening is that Israel and Lebanon have been in a little bit of a tussle recently. I don't know, Ursula, if you heard, but there was an attack on some members of Hezbollah. It looks like by exploding pagers from Israel. They intercepted some pagers and they put like little bombs on it and set them off. Well, now this is the second attack that just happened, I believe, last night. So Israel attacks Lebanon live. New strikes target Beirut. Israel army says it has launched strikes on Beirut, with sources saying that Hezbollah commander was the target. The Israel PM office has released statement on Netanyahu's page. News about ceasefires is not true. I think it was President Macron of France who was, I think, stating that there was a ceasefire, kind of like in communications. German chancellor warns of regional conflict if Israel-Hezbollah fighting continues. So German Chancellor Olaf warns that Israel-Hezbollah conflict could spill over into the region after talks with Israel opposition politician Benny Gantz. So he wrote that Hezbollah must withdraw from the border area of Lebanon. All parties have a responsibility to find a diplomatic solution. I spoke about this with Benny Gantz. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah must not become a regional what is that? Conflagration?
Conflagration.
Conflagration with me, conflagration all the way. The German leader also spoke with Lebanon's prime minister on Wednesday. Germany is part of a group of nations that have called for immediate 21-day ceasefire along the Lebanon-Israel border. However, Israel has rejected the ceasefire proposal, led by the U.S., vowing to keep fighting Hezbollah until victory. And this is so another massive front of attack. As we heard, it wasn't just in Gaza that was bombed, and then Iran got into it. So now Lebanon is on full attack on Hezbollah that's in Lebanon. So we have like yet another war kind of looming.
And I like what Jen says, because I vote against World War III too. I don't know who these people think they are, involving us into something like this and exposing the entire world to this kind of harm. I mean, honestly, and the hard part is too, I don't know if we're getting full information about what's happening. My understanding is Israel said they did not reject a ceasefire, but then who knows? We just don't know. But I'm against World War III too. I think the potential is there, and I think that was a euphemistic saying, a regional conflagration. Regional, no way. You guys start getting into it. That's the world. I think that's right. That's World War III potentially. And I was really disappointed to hear that Israel used those technological devices to blow up some of the Hezbollah leaders. I know they, have, a desire to put an end to that conflict. I just think that's very concerning, because, and I know others would disagree with it, but it just seems that's a little personal. And people who have just cell phones and pagers, they had pagers. Some of them were kids and stuff. And I don't know, you start creating a panic now, because now people think, well, is my device going to explode? And then that leads to something else, and it leads to something else. And then before you know it, we're drawn into World War III. So I just, wow, I don't know where are the adults in the room for this thing, because it seems to me that it has not improved. It just gets worse and worse from year to year. And now we have this huge thing that came about since October 7th, and we're almost at a year and it's not resolved.
Right. Yeah, and that's another reason why I pulled up Al Jazeera, because we do have friends who are Muslim and all stuff, and it's Al Jazeera sometimes, which is shocking. It does seem to be the most kind of like unbiased side on this. They're really trying hard to stay unbiased about it. The Pope did make a statement about this. He says, "I'm saddened by the news coming from Lebanon about bombings, death, and destruction. May the international community make every effort to stop this terrible escalation. It is unacceptable. I express my solidarity with the Lebanese people who already suffered too much."
They really have.
Our friend Catholic Frequency, once again says, "Our Lady of Lebanon, pray for us to have a peace." Amen. Our Lady of Lebanon.
Amen. Our Lady of Lebanon, ora pro nobis.
Ora pro nobis. It just seems like we can't get a break on this Middle East kind of disturbances. But
I mean, I've heard about people trying to act as mediators, but I don't know if anyone will even try now. I mean, I've heard of other nations and people who are trained to be mediators going to try to talk to both sides to kind of broker a peace, but it just seems like it's getting out of control right now. I don't know if we're too far gone from that. I mean, both sides have, I think, really important points to be raised. Um, and at the same time, there's also a lot of harm done. So I don't know. I don't know, Fletcher, but I'm with Jen. I vote against World War III. Some people love
yeah,
to jump to war. I don't think war is good. War is something that's very hard to bounce back from.
right. No, I agree. I think Germany is the one that is trying the most to try to get something going here, where back in the days it used to be the United States that wasn't just fanning the flames, just to get, war contracts. But hey, what do you expect from, Dick Cheney now endorsing, Harris? So it tells you a lot which way they kind of want the war to go. If Mr. Warmonger himself, decides to do it. But so with the Pope,
Well, let's be
making a
real. Let's be real. War makes people money. If we're
war
really
makes a
honest about it.
lot. Well, not
So
us, not
no,
us,
not
not
us,
the common
not the
folk,
little guy, not the
not the
little
little
guy.
guy.
But a lot of people make money off war. Somebody look into that. Write in the comments if you know what we're talking about, because war makes money.
That's
That's a
right. The war
fact.
does. That's a fact. Yeah, for
But
sure.
something I didn't know, Fletcher, before is someone was saying, I think it was a historian I was watching the other day. He said that every war also lowers the morality of the people, not just the morale, but their
Right.
actual morality, so that people who are very law abiding and very, pious in their beliefs and so forth, who are, obedient and chaste and modest. He says war always lowers the moral code. So people are much more, open to break those laws, of family and chastity and law abidingness. Isn't that interesting? I guess because
Hmm.
everything's thrown out because you're at war. And they say that it is hard to bounce back from it. Each time you have a war, the morality of the people goes down. And that's what is important for our constitutional republic. I think it was John Adams who said our constitution, our society is only working for a just and moral people, a pious people. Like it doesn't work for any other, I think he said. Basically,
Right.
like if you have people who are willing to rob, steal, kill, fornicate, just steal, act the fool, basically, they are not going to be able to abide by the Constitution, because you need people who are willingly able to be disciplined and a moral and virtuous people. And if war ruins that, what does that tell you?
Right. Well, in the famous words of Earth, Wind, and Fire, war. Oh, good God, yo. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Huh?
And
Say
that's
it
so
again.
not Earth, Wind, and Fire, Fletcher. I'm very
That's not
confident
Earth,
that's
Wind,
not.
and Fire.
I'm so confident that's not Earth, Wind, and Fire. I don't know what to tell you.
All right.
Somebody in the comments tell us who did War. What is it good for? Which is a very
Well,
nice song.
isn't it War? Isn't
I
the
just
band name War? I don't know.
I have no idea, but I know
I'm
it's not Earth,
see,
Wind, and Fire because
I'm
they
showing
bring
my
the
age that
vibe.
I don't know
They
what.
bring the vibes. There's no way
Yeah.
they
All
don't
right.
sing something
So
so, you know,
all right. So okay. All
controversial.
right.
Anyway, go on,
It's
Fletcher.
brother-in-law's music. All right. Brother-in-law's music. He would play it. I'm still a little bit inept about American rock and roll.
That's fine.
Uh, so I know that we mentioned this because we feel like the Pope was taken out of context a little bit recently when he kind of gave discourse. I think it was in Singapore or something like that. He was, basically you can see all the thumbnails in Catholic Twitter and Catholic YouTube all over. They're like, Pope Francis they put the coexist bumper sticker and they're
I
like,
didn't see those.
oh man, it's all over the place. I think even Trent Report did something about it, and all the big Catholic podcasts. they were all talking about, it's the Pope and stuff, and see the Pope, see he's
And
all
they do it
into
in
this.
they do it in that voice, Fletcher.
They do it in their voice, yeah. They do it in their voice. They sit in the twill jackets and they're like, the Pope is really a communist, because from Argentina, a bunch of Argentinians are communists. Yeah, man, yeah, boy. Just tell them what you got.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, listen. You really have to stop that. But listen,
Sorry.
I don't take the side that you do. I maybe don't go as far as some of the others do. Perhaps this is pretty typical of me taking more of a middle road. I think his comments are problematic. I won't go so far as to say that he was 100% misinterpreted or mistranslated. I do know the Vatican did issue a statement after at least one of the statements that he made saying, all paths to God, all the religions lead to paths to God. And they said, no, what he's saying is that all religions, have something, that all religions seek God, not that they're legitimate, in and of themselves as an end to God or whatever. So they tried to clean it up a little bit, but then it does seem like he doubled down and said, all religions are, the diversity is a gift from God. I mean, you know what, Fletcher, the thing with this Pope Benedict, not Pope Benedict, Pope
Francis.
Benedict was really clear. Francis is, he's a little bit confusing. I mean, he's hard to understand. He is not one that speaks carefully. I mean, there's a little bit of a JD Vance, right? Not to conflate them,
Oh,
but he's a little bit, he says, things that are kind of hard to understand. He's, I think sometimes deliberately vague, but I also think that he might be of that generation. Some people call the Vatican II, where they are a little bit more ecumenical. So they think, oh, it's okay. My problem with it is I don't want it to seem as though our mission hasn't changed as the church. We are winning people for Christ. That is what we are for. Jesus says in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The God, the Father, we have to be winning people. Otherwise, what was the purpose of sending missionaries out to get killed? If it was fine, then just stay whatever religion you are. And not every religion has everything good, right? There's some religions like the Aztecs, they used to sacrifice children. They used to sacrifice people, take their hearts out living. There's pictures of it. I mean, not actual photographs, but people painted them at the time. So we know that not every religion is the truth. They might be all seeking some kind of truth or some kind of union with God, but they're not all the same. They're not all equal. And we believe the church is the right one. This is the one that God established himself. And, it's unique and it's powerful. But it sounds like you think, Fletcher, he was just misquoted. You think that he doesn't think that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where you have to go to the catechism, because the catechism teaches those who throughout no fault of their own, do not know the gospel of Christ or his church, but who nevertheless seeks God with a sincere heart and more moved by grace, trying their actions to his will as they know it through the dictates of the conscience, those who may achieve eternal salvation. So I think he's trying to go with more of the, he's speaking to international audiences, and a lot of people, especially like the trad cats, who are in YouTube and all that kind of stuff, they're used to, a pope like John Paul II, who was very, very crafty in his words when speaking to the Western audience. Pope Francis is more adept to speaking to the Eastern, African, Asian audience, because a lot of people don't know this. In Argentina, there's a lot of Asian trade. There's a lot of commerce with different countries besides the United States or the Western Bloc, right? So a lot of the language has to be kind of coded because, I mean, a lot of people don't know that the church in China is basically, you can't say certain things and you can't do certain things. Church in Libya, Iran, Iraq, all these churches are persecuted, and if you word things a certain way, you can end up, having churches and whole congregations, even parishes, being attacked. And that's why I think some of it gets a little bit thrown out of balance, because it's not only geared towards a Western audience, it's geared towards the world, and not the whole world is Western. So using kind of like the Western kind of codes and stuff like that might not, it could put some parishes in danger. So I think that's kind of where the Pope is coming for this. But, the Catechism does teach that, the people that haven't heard the gospel or anything like that and trying to seek God do have like a place. Because every time when he's asked, what is the true church? And he says, the Catholic Church. What is it through faith? The Catholic faith. It's even like can all these tenements of the church. He's always he's steadfast on abortion, all this kind of stuff that are not popular around the world, but he does stick steadfast to that. So in that sense, I kind of give him grace, because I think he is taken a little bit out of context for it. So that's kind of like my two
I think
cents.
that's it. I think that's gotcha. That's an interesting point. I mean, I think that's one I haven't heard a take on, which is that perhaps he's speaking in code. He has to be concerned about the safety of the people in front of him. I do think you still have to be bold for the gospel. Obviously, a lot of people have suffered martyrdom, and we are all prepared. We must be to suffer martyrdom, to just speak the truth in love. But I think to alienate people, you're right, who don't understand the gospel and its primary message, which is that Jesus is the way. He's the only way. It may not sound to them as an invitation, but as a challenge, and one that's not nice to them. So he might be trying to explain that in his own way, and he's not the most gifted speaker, that, I understand that what religion you practice now, I'm not condemning. So that might be the way he said it. If you're charitable, I guess that's the way. But I think people are just sort of tired of this Pope, because he's constantly in some kind of fracas when it comes to something he said, done, or authorized, and he does have people around him that are not trustworthy.
Right.
So,
well, fellow South Americans like myself, and you always think I kind of cause a ruckus. So it's in the same vein, right? We're just going around cussing ruckus everywhere we go. That's Edwin Starr. I have no clue who that is. Edwin Starr? That's a band?
Oh, Edwin Starr. Yes. War. What is it good for? Yes. Edwin Starr. I believe that's right. That name rings a bell for some reason. Now, I don't know if that's the band or a person, but that name somehow rings a bell to me.
Man, I would suck at Jeopardy on that one. That's for sure.
I'm gonna look this up afterwards. Thank you, Jen.
Oh my gosh,
Edwin Starr. It's a good song. I knew. Hey, all I know is I'm right. Is not Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Right. Yeah, that's funny, because it's like, Ursula's like, you know what? All I know is I'm right. Yeah, well, something that might not be right. Something that might not be right. It's Coca-Cola now. It's acting a fool. It seems. So there's been hashtag
fool.
Right. So it looks like what's been happening is that Coca-Cola, this is just one side of it. There's another side of it. So it looks like Coca-Cola, you're able to put Allah loves you, and these, these cans they're trying to customize the cans so you can drink more, I don't know, like sugar and poison. So I guess if you put Jesus loves you, this was comes out. Looks like the name you requested is not approved. Please note phrases may not be approved. They're trademark, political in nature, names of countries, celebrities, or religious figures named, as well as anything that could be considered offensive, and other phrases. Right. So it's like, you're like, okay, but it's like, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the thumbnail, but in the thumbnail, I show the can. I wasn't trying to be, facetious or anything like that, but the can that somebody did was, praise Satan, right? So
we mean that. We don't mean that. We don't mean that. We're just reading the words in Jesus' name. We don't mean that.
Right. No.
I love David. Tastes like battery acid. You know what, David? He's right, but it's so tasty.
Well, I haven't had an American Coke in I don't know how long. It has to be years, But recently, I did have a Mexican Coke, and I do say they're quite tasty when cold.
But you know what? If you get away from it, you start to realize it does taste like battery acid. And you know what? It actually acts like battery acid. I heard there
Right,
was some people
you
doing,
can clean your battery
yeah,
with it.
yeah. People say it actually dissolves rust. That doesn't sound good for your insides, you guys. Listen, I think that is kind of problematic. Obviously they're a private company. We're not saying they can't decide what names they put on their cans. They have this little cute program. You can put whatever names you want and
Right.
whatever little phrase you want. But now when you put in, everybody else's, religion is fine. You can say Allah, you can say Muhammad, you can say all these things, but you cannot say Jesus. That seems very
Right.
rude. If I, am a customer, why am I supporting you when you're showing your contempt and bigotry towards me? I think that's a good enough reason to not buy them. Why? I mean, apart from the battery acid taste, which,
Right.
it's already, it's not
Well, this
healthy. Oh, yeah, let's see it. Let's see it live in action, Fletch.
So at the Coke store, you can personalize a message. You can put Allah loves you. Or you could even put, let me see, let's just try it out. Buddha loves you. But you cannot even type in the word Jesus. We cannot allow this text on the can. Everything else is good though. Even if I put, let's see, Satan.
Oh no, bro.
Hold on. Satan loves you. You can put that. You can put Satan loves you, Allah loves you, Buddha loves you. But when you type in this word, you can't even type the word in. That's crazy.
And he really doesn't.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, isn't that crazy? So it was a big call in for
Oh my
everybody.
gosh, David has the best question.
No, it is true. Yeah. Yeah, there's
They can't
tons.
even, he's alienating the Latinos, Hispanic people. You're right. What
Yeah,
about
obviously
Hispanics?
they don't care.
That's a very common name. First
Oh
name
no,
is Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, Jesus.
You can't.
is
Oh,
there.
sorry. You can have Madison. You can have Jason. You can have Mary, but you can't put your name, Jesus. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's so messed up.
Jesus, no bueno, Jesus.
That's a great point. So you're alienating a bunch of people besides Catholics and Christians. You're saying, if you happen to be named this, forget it. Sorry. Everybody else could put all your little friends can put their names, but not you.
Yeah, so we're doing the whole
down
hashtag.
with Coca-Cola.
Hashtag cancel Coca-Cola. So if you guys don't know, these are the brands owned by Coca-Cola. So I guess coffee and tea, they have this Gold Peak, Georgia, Fuse Tea, Costa Coffee. In juices and dairy plants, they have Minute Maid, Fairlife, Simply, sparkling soft drink. They have Fresca, Sprite, Schweppes, Fanta.
I'm gonna miss Topo Chico. I do like Topo Chico, but I'm done. I'm done with them. So
They have Topo Chico. Oh my gosh, I just saw that.
I can find something else.
Well, you do.
Look at that.
Like Waterloo.
I do like. Oh no, they have Waterloo. Don't tell me that.
No, they don't have water. That's what I'm saying. Okay. You love Waterloo, so they would have been like, all right, maybe Coca-Cola's not so bad.
No, I wouldn't do that. I love it.
You're right. You gotta go they bought Topo Chico.
Yeah, they have Topo Chico.
Oh, I guess
David's telling us, "Hey Zeus." That's true. I bet you could put that in there. Hey Zeus.
Oh yeah. But like, hey Zeus. So okay, Greek
gods are okay. Greek gods are okay. I mean, listen, you know what? We were just talking, Fletcher, about the primacy of the Christian religion, that it might sound bigoted, but we're like, hey, he's the way. Well, you guys are telling us he is, because everybody's okay but that one.
But that
and that's what you see a lot. I mean, I don't know. It kind of tells us what we've been saying, because that's the real one. Everything else is kind of, not as good, honestly, not getting you all the way there. The jet plane all the way to heaven is the Christian God. But we've been saying that, and you're acknowledging it because he's the only one that you hate, and the rest of them you're cool with. So
Right.
thank you, Coca-Cola. But we would
Thank you
prefer
for
not to support you if you feel like we're pariah to you, and all the Hispanics named Jesus.
yeah. No, I mean it's like it's funny because insert meme here of Shia LaBeouf playing Father Pio. Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. That's how you gotta admit. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where you kind
No,
of go, hey,
I'm so
if
done
the
with this
shoe
though.
fits,
No, because you know what? Stop treating me like you don't have to believe my religion. I'm not asking Coca-Cola to become Christians, but stop treating me like I don't count as a customer to you. Please stop that. It's just like with Target in the time they refused to have the word Christmas in the store. Stop trying to sell me Christmas items and Christmas gifts and Christmas decorations, and then all around the store you just write holidays, or not even that. At one point they were just avoiding, like, it was the winter festivus season. It's like, well, look, what are we really celebrating at this time? It's because people believe in Christ, and it's okay that it can be secularized to some extent. But if you're going to make it like we just despise your holiday so much we won't say the word, then why am I shopping there? I mean, can I shop somewhere where you think that I'm important and you honor me? I mean, honestly, you and I both have lived in countries that are non-Christian, right? I mean, I lived in a country that was Muslim before. And honestly, I had no problem saying to people, blessed Ramadan, Ramadan Kareem, you know,
right.
because it's your holiday. It doesn't take anything away from me to say, I understand that during Ramadan is a holy time and I can wish you a happy Ramadan. I don't have to be like happy holiday, because we all know that's a strange thing to say. I'm okay with you. And if I'm selling to Muslims and I'm selling things that relate to Ramadan, I'm not going to let me not put the word there, or let me not put Allah. I'm going to honor them because that's what they believe. But you feel it's okay to, insult your customers when they're Christian? Well, I mean, come on. No, we're done with that.
That's the thing.
Over.
People,
That's over.
It seems like we have no backbone as Christians, and I think we have to bring that back, or else lose more. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just wow. Yeah, it's just.
I mean, if I'm selling to Jews, I'm going to say Yom Kippur. I'm going to be happy with, Happy Hanukkah. I'm going to say all of that because I honor you. I'm not going to leave you out. How dare I do that? Why would I mean, not that I have to. Sure, I'm a private company. I can do what I want. But, why would I be disrespectful to people who are my customers?
Wow. No, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you can say no. So,
oh no, Jen is ruining my life right now. What are you doing, Jen? What are you doing right now? I love Trader Joe's. Stop messing with me, Jen.
It's so Aldi's. Well, you can't say Yahtzee. You have to say Yahtzee.
Oh, you have to say Yahtzee. That's right. We can't say the word. All right. So she's saying, one of our people is telling us that Trader Joe's is connected to the Yahtzees, and the same with Aldi. Those are two of my favorite stores. Oh my gosh, those are my favorites. Now I'm mad at Jen.
That's it.
And Fanta. I like Fanta.
Well, Fanta's a Coke product, so yeah.
Well, we can't go with Fanta, and now you guys, we can't go with. I didn't know Trader Joe's was connected to the Yahtzees and Aldi. I should have known what Aldi's though. Aren't they a German company?
Well, Aldi is a German company. Yeah,
I kind of should have known with that. They kind of has a kind of German feel when you're in there. It is a little bit.
No, yeah,
off.
it is. It's you gotta pay for your cart.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's very organized. It's like in a weird way. All right, so you guys, no Aldi's. Oh, and no Trader Joe's.
Oh, no,
girls,
gonna be hard for
let's move on from this before Jen tells me somewhere else I can't go. At least I can still go to Whole Foods, right? Don't answer that. Don't answer that, Jen.
So
move on.
Moving on. So according to the Daily Mail, Shock Poll shows students at prestigious university flip presidential pick for the first time in 12 years. Student attending Notre Dame University shows plurality for one candidate. Students at the University of Notre Dame appear more willing to support former President Donald Trump, according to a shocking new poll. The Irish Voter survey 705 likely student voters between September 15 and September 18, soliciting their choice for president. The polls show that 47.6% of students favored Trump for president, while 45.9% favor Kamala Harris. So that's not a huge
Okay,
thing.
you
Is
got to
it?
stop calling her Kamala Harris.
Well, you know,
It's Kamala. You have to stop.
so it's-
The people are making a big
Kamala.
issue of that now, so you got to stop.
Are
Oh,
they?
just so you know, too. Yeah, they are. Glenn mentions Iron Man. Mexican Iron Man has been ahead of the curve with his decades-long Fanta boycott. We're on that. We got to remember that Fanta is
That's
down.
fine.
No more Fanta. So this is at the school of Notre Dame, which is a Catholic school. I'm really surprised because they're really often in favor of whoever the Democrat is. So the fact that young people, students, they really do like whoever the liberal candidate is. So it's really strange that they might have flipped for Trump at Notre Dame. That's kind of
Right.
interesting. Even for a Catholic school. I mean, Catholics are supposed to be voting for the most pro-life candidate, which obviously in this case is Trump. Although that's been called into question, Fletcher,
No,
because
yeah.
with Trump flip-flopping a little bit on the issue, people say no, they're basically tied on that in some ways. And so you can look to other issues. And some people believe that, Kamala has better policies and other things. I don't know. It's controversial. I think Trump probably is more pro-life, so I would tend towards that. But I think it's interesting that Notre Dame, a lot of people who are a lot of free thinkers, young people, are liking Trump. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, and I do agree. I think a lot of people are just kind of tired of it, and I'm really shocked by this because even though it's a small margin of winning, college campuses usually are the bane. You know what I mean? They're just not the place to do it. But I did want to ask you a question.
Yes.
How come people do the Kamala, whatever, but why can't we just call it Harris? Why can't we just call it VP Harris, like what I've been doing? Because everybody says Trump, nobody says Donald. And I think the whole first name thing is just to sympathize with her.
I think that's an interesting point. You're right, because why do we pick what's the hardest thing to say, which is her name? And for a long time, I was also saying Kamala because it looks like that to me. But then, we were corrected. And at the Democratic National Convention, she did have the very cute nieces of hers basically practicing how to say her name, or helping us practice how to say her name. They know how to say her name, with Kerry Washington. And some people thought it was obnoxious. It was actually, I thought, quite cute. But you're right. Why are we calling her by her first name anyway? Because everyone says Trump. No one says Donald. And you're right. Even with unusual names like Obama, at the time that was unusual. Everybody knows his name now. But at the time, Barack Obama, that was unusual. And no one said Barack. Everyone said Obama. I think you're right. I think there's something insidious about it because she is a woman, and maybe we feel like, well, we can use her first name because, a lot of times people say Hillary too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say Clinton. But then you have to also wonder, maybe because her last name is so common, Harris, that people wonder if even who you're talking about. And like with Clinton, you're talking about Bill. So maybe they feel like but that's an interesting point, actually, Fletcher. Like, why do we use the women's first names so much in politics and not, and in her case, why don't we just say Harris, VP Harris? I like it. We can do that.
Well, that's what I do, because every time I get in trouble in the other one, and I think it's kind of like it's like a kind of dubious because you're kind of like going, why am I saying that stuff? Speaking of something dubious, investor-backed Haitian lobby group asked court order to arrest of Donald Trump and JD Vance. Arrest them. Why did they arrest him? A group who campaign for more Haitian migration asked judges Tuesday in Springfield, Ohio, to arrest and file criminal charges against former President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. The call comes from the dual criticism of the government-funded migration drive into citizens' homeland communities. The charges were requested by the Haitian Bridge Alliance, which has been backed for many years by Mark Zuckerberg, an investor group by investor George Soros' political campaign. The jarring claim was loudly echoed by pro-democratic ties, such as MSNBC, to prefer to hide the ordinary civic and pocketbook damage to immigration claims about racism. So the Haitian Bridge Alliance made the move after the inaction of a local prosecutor said their attorney, Soto Chandra of the Cleveland-based Chandra law firm. The Associated Press wrote, charges brought by private citizens are rare but not unheard of. In Ohio, examples might be a grocery store charging a customer for a Brown's Jack. State law requires a hearing to take place before the affidavit can move forward. As of Tuesday afternoon, none had been scheduled. Trump and Vance, a U.S. Senator from Ohio, are charged with disrupting public services, making false claims, telecommunication harassment, aggravated menacing. There you go. And complicity. What's that charge? The filing asked for the Clark County Municipal Court to affirm that there is probable cause and issue arrest warrants against Trump and Vance. What in the Springfield? Now it's going to be the new thing. Is like what in the Springfield, Ohio?
Yeah. This is a bit outrageous. I mean, honestly, I think people realize in America that you have the right of freedom of speech. And, Donald Trump has expressed his opinion of what's happening there. People have been trying to debunk it as far as they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people who live there.
They're eating the dogs. Whoa. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow.
Okay. And the other things. But there's enough evidence that statement wasn't completely rash. There have been people who've made such reports, and it's not outside of the realm of reason, and it's not even against a very particular person where you can say it was defamation. So I don't see how you can order the arrest that somehow they've committed a crime because they've been talking about the problems of the Springfield residents who have had to absorb a lot of people that are not of their same culture, that are not of their same language, and of not of their same mindset into their community. I mean, that's what they're saying. And I don't get how you're helping your case by basically now calling for two people running for office to be arrested. It just tells me you're not there. You're not able to adapt to American society. Maybe in your country of Haiti, if someone says something that you don't like, you can get them arrested. But that's not the way law and order works in the United States. So why don't you get to know how things work here? Because if I went to another country to live, whether as, a voluntary citizen or I had to, God forbid, be a refugee or something, I kind of want to know the way things operate there and not be so bold as to try to get a lawyer and ask someone to can you imagine if I ran to France and I'm like, I want Macron arrested because he said that, Americans who come to France, are, I don't know, whatever we would be doing wrong there. They're swilling the wine, they're molding the cheese.
Or if you go to Italy, they're putting ketchup on their pizza.
They're putting ketchup on their pizza.
Right. Or they're going to South America. They're like some Southern hunters and they're eating the capybaras.
They're right. They're eating the capybaras.
They're eating the gators. Crunch, 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 crunch.
Crunch, crunch. Right.
I don't know, but there's some crazy stuff happening in Springfield.
Think...
Springfield is going nuts. Look at this lady. So this is a grocery store rep from Springfield, Ohio, describes selling illegal immigrants receipts with $13,000 on the EBT food and $29,000 on the EBT cash. This is all this is government money. This is money from the government, right? This is not hey, this is your money. Because when there's government money from the government, that's your money as an American citizen. That's your money right there. We're not talking about, this is not, hey, by the way, it's in the ether. No, this is your money out of your pocket.
I can tell you personally that when I worked at the grocery store and I cashed them out, the receipts were alarming. $13,000 on EBT food, not including the $29,000 that was on EBT cash. It's infuriating. Yes, sir.
So they're not getting 600.
And while they're dressed very well, how are you able to dress like that? Coming over here as running for help that we're supposedly helping them, how are you dressed like that when we, the American people, are scrapping for the next set of work boots? That's a problem. That's a serious problem.
I mean, it's crazy, right?
Wow.
I mean, you have somebody basically saying that they're and the reason why, I mean, if you don't have anybody that knows this, if you're not on assistance, most of the time the receipts, they tell you how much you have left. And it's usually to help you out because you get kind of like it's like a debit card, but usually when they print out of the receipts, and there's plenty of receipts, go check it out. There's tons of those receipts out there. She's not the only one saying it.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of money going to these folks.
I mean, how many people who are American citizens, Fletcher, who work every day, really work every day, sometimes more than one job, have $13,000 even in their bank account, let alone $13,000 just for food on a card. You can use it anytime you want. Can you freaking imagine that?
That's literally.
Just
I mean, when people were complaining about reparations to African Americans, they could have done basically this with already Americans.
Yeah,
Americans, people who are born here all their lives, generations. Wow. And then you have these folks getting all this money. Yeah.
David Glenn has it. He has the money. Just like pennies. That's like right. My dad. My dad would keep money in jars and pennies. I don't know if he has 13,000 in pennies. He goes individual pennies. That is. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if he had one of those glass jars. My mom and dad had those.
The water bottles.
Pennies. No, they're huge, Fletcher. They're these.
No, I know. What I'm saying is like the jars, the big jars that are usually for water. And you put the pennies.
Oh, you know what? They might be for water, but they're heavy glass. And I remember many times putting my little fingers in there trying to take out money when I needed it for stuff. And my parents.
Right. So don't incriminate yourself further.
All right.
I'm sure the statute of limitations passed. But they're not only getting tons of money to be here. All right. They're also causing all kinds of traffic accidents. It looks like in Springfield, Ohio. But it feels like a little bit sinister because it seems like this is a sheriff from basically a town next to Springfield, a smaller town. And he says they cut off the radio, from other like neighboring stations listening to it because they don't want to getting out on the news of all the stuff like crimes that are happening. Right. Because, the reason why a lot of people might not know how that's relevant is because it leaked one of the reports where 911 calls talking about them eating pets of neighbors. And that's how first a lot of this happened. Then photos started coming, more people started coming forward. And that's how we got the whole eating dogs and cats thing. But it looks like that's what they're shutting that down because usually neighboring police forces talk to each other because if you have a perpetrator basically going from one county to the next in these small areas is very common. And so they usually try to keep lines open of communications, but it looks like they're canceling that to protect a lot of this force control. Look at that. Ooh. That's Springfield, Ohio.
A city that's in absolute turmoil. Everybody's against everybody.
Chad Duncan is the police chief of Tremont City, Ohio, which is just outside of Springfield. He described a general atmosphere of lawlessness in Springfield, which he says is spreading to the surrounding area.
people that shouldn't be driving are out there, and they're allowing them to drive.
Chief Duncan described one of his recent traffic stops involving a Haitian migrant.
He didn't even have a license, coming through town at 44 mile an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. That's the second time in 2 weeks.
And you towed his car?
Oh yeah, towed it for the second time.
And Springfield wouldn't have?
No.
He suggested that one reason Springfield authorities might be going soft on reckless driving is to protect the Haitians' immigration status.
If you get 2 misdemeanors, you are subject to be deported.
Since Springfield became a media sensation,
in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats.
Chief Duncan says his...
Yeah, I mean, so they're basically saying that they're cutting down the radio supply and all this kind of stuff so people don't communicate about these things, and it's just crazy. But if you saw, now we live in areas in the West Coast that have a lot of influx of illegal immigration, and you always do see the raise of insurance because a lot of they drive without insurance, and you have all these uninsured motorist insurance is like a huge deal because you get crashed on and they're like, oh no, I don't have insurance, and it brings up your insurance and brings up the cost, everything, because but now you have this, so they're driving without license. So now we can add the new song. They're driving without license, crash, 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 crash. They're crashing in your car, crash, 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 crash. It's like, oh man.
We need to get that guy to do that song.
Yeah, right. They're crashing their cars, crash, 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 crash. They have no license, boo, 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 boo. Our insurance costs are just gonna be rising. Yeah, no, maybe not.
But you know what? I honestly feel that in this conversation we've had about race in the country, a lot of people seize upon what Trump said and think, okay, he's racist. But it has nothing to do with the actual color of the skin of these people. And it has nothing to do with what they call xenophobia against people who are not from America originally. It has to do with the fact that these particular individuals are not well suited to be where they are and have seemingly made no attempt to try to assimilate or fit in any kind of way. And that's what we're talking about. Even if you have a different view of assimilation than someone else, we talked about this melting pot or the salad where you kind of blend in, but they're not doing either one, right? So if you're getting to the point, and it's also, even if they did do amazingly well at studying American culture, trying to fit in, not crashing your car, not flaunting
speed limits,
right?
Flaunting your wealth,
right? Not taking we've seen the pictures of the people with the geese, right? Taking the geese from the park and so forth. Even if they did everything well, you're still talking about a people who've basically been converged upon. Nobody will feel, happy with somebody when they have a home and then basically like 20% of the town overnight change to being people from a different country who are not like you. It doesn't matter if it was even, I think, even if it was people from like Norway and all of a sudden there are these Norwegians in town and they're like 20 to 30% of the population, it was going to be a little bit of a friction. It's like, who are these people? That we were a quiet community. But the fact is, these people have come in with a different kind of attitude. I like what David has told us. The Somalis in Minnesota will miss a turnoff on the interstate and then stop without pulling over and start backing up. What? Oh my gosh. She said it was 22 years ago. Maybe things have changed. I doubt it. And that's the thing too. People don't realize from other countries, they have different traffic rules.
No, correct.
They don't necessarily have come over here knowing our rules. Heck, they didn't get to know our language. They didn't come in the legal way. So we know they didn't take the test that you have to take to become a citizen to know, our basic.
All my family had to take it. Yeah.
Right. So they don't come in here and they don't have a license. As you mentioned, the insurance issue is huge.
It's huge. Yeah.
Y'all listening, y'all better make sure you get the highest you can. In fact, I'm gonna have to look at my policy. Make sure you have the highest you can of underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. That's what you get to use if the person that might be involved with an accident with you who's at fault doesn't have any insurance. That's when it comes into play. Because if they have insurance, their insurance should pay if they're at fault. But if they don't have insurance, what are you going to do? So that's when you have paid for this thing called uninsured motor. Not that I'm not selling anything.
There's no like indignant desert bird insurance plan.
I mean, we could get into it, but we don't have anything now set up. We have no kind of, this is just a PSA for everybody. If you live in one of these towns with people, I mean, I know I've seen it in my town. A lot of times people who are from different countries who haven't really well assimilated, they will do like what David says. They'll do, I mean, think about it, you guys. Even if you're from when I went out to California one time, I didn't even know you could turn right on red. That's a different state's rule. And, from, New York, you don't do that. You don't turn right on red. So if someone from California comes and they didn't learn the New York rule book, they're going to cause an accident maybe because they're not being careful. That's what it's talking about. It's not about their race. It has to do with the fact they're not from there and the kind of people that they are. These particular ones don't seem to care. They don't look like they have taken any effort to get to know the people, to get to be like the people, because that's what's needed to have mutual courtesy. You've got to kind of, it seems like they want only Americans to reach out to the Haitians and be nice to them, and you're being unkind. It goes both ways.
Yeah, the right way and then yours.
I mean,
but something that's horrible right now, it's happening.
Yes.
It's
yes.
so
Fletcher, I just want to say this. You and I have lived in other countries, and I feel
Yes.
like we've always tried to adapt to the people there, not expect them to adapt to us when we're visiting. But okay, we'll go on.
No, yeah, it's totally right because every country. I mean, I was when I was in Africa, in the middle of a civil war, and you have one side of the village has electricity, and that's the Muslim side, and the Christian side had no electricity. You still have to kind of go see the chief of the tribe, and you have to respect their customs, even though you're kind of saying, hey, wait a minute, how come you still have slaves? Yeah, well, not so that's not so good of a thing, But hey, you got to get off the high horse sometimes, and when you're trying to, make deals, like I was trying to set up something for a women's clinic, but you're kind of like, hey, what exactly are you doing? You're not doing yourself or your cause a favor by doing this, and all the people out there driving without licenses and doing all this kind of stuff. You're not doing yourself a favor, disrespecting people in the area or any other kind of stuff. So I mean, there's so much stuff we could talk about Springfield. We're just kind of running through some stuff right now because we'll come back to it. I will show you. There's a few things. Yeah,
Have
it's
a
gonna
nice
be
day.
Oh, David. Yeah, have a good one, David.
Signing off. Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
for joining us.
So this one is so an American woman was the first to use the new Minecrafting yourself pod. And basically, I don't know if you saw this. You can
unaliving yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
can't
this
say
was
word.
this was the thing.
I never heard of this, Fletcher. Oh my gosh.
Inside this thing, you press a button and nitrogen gas comes out. Right? And that's just crazy. I mean,
that's so sad.
Used in nature, whether that is at a beach or in the Alps.
Remember, they said, did you get that? It's
No.
made to use. You can use it outside in nature, like in a beach or something like that. So, like, if you want to, put yourself out there in the middle of nowhere, and with this thing, so you can unalive yourself in the beach or something. Imagine you take your kids to the beach, to the mountains, and some heifers out here decided to unalive herself in this thing. I mean, what the heck are we doing?
Wow.
That's what she said.
Somewhere of outstanding beauty, and that's why there's such a big window.
It's a big window.
See the outside world, but also the designer in the Netherlands wanted to give it a sense of travel to a new destination.
Travel. Wow.
My word.
Wow.
I mean, this is not like me, but I'm almost speechless. But I do have something to say. First of all, the Catholic Church teaches is very evil. A lot of Christian religions do, to take your own life. That you don't have the right to do that because God is the one who decides issues of life and death. And when it comes to innocent life, you don't get to take your own life. You don't get to take innocent life. There are exceptions, of course, for wars and stuff like that, self-defense, but you can't just do that. That's number one. And I think there's something very natural, and it's very unnatural to want to take your own life. I also think number two, there's something very insidious and evil about this particular way to do so, because it makes it seem like, and I'm really, really sad that it says a woman, may she rest in peace. We're just gonna ask God to forgive her right now to have done this. And she used it to kill herself. I'm sorry, to unalive herself. And I think what's dangerous about this, Fletcher, is that it looks like it's a fun little, for those who maybe are listening to us and not watching, it looks like it's a pod, and
Right.
it has a very nice pictures, like a dark blue or like a little bit of a
Yeah.
purplish blue.
It's like something out of Star Wars.
Right, or Star Trek, right? It
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like,
You're like Dragon Ball Z. You're there to collect Dragon Balls out in the open wild or something and just chill. You know, I mean, the kids could watch this and go like,
well,
"Oh, that looks amazing."
that's what I was gonna get at. I mean, that was my last point on this is what I think is insidious about it is that it is attractive to people who are perhaps not that well suited to make good decisions, like people who may be elderly. It says at the bottom, you were just showing it, Fletcher, it says, oh, we can go to new worlds. So
Yeah.
even though it's saying it's a place to kill oneself, I can see someone thinking, no, this is just transitioning me to a new world.
To a new world, yeah. It's like
And the nitrogen doesn't kill me. It's just going to make me, especially for young people, for those who are going through some kind of mental illness, it bothers me, who may not be able to distinguish, and also those who are in the really worst stages of their lives that they would consider killing themselves. I mean, unaliving themselves. That they would have this very attractive and seemingly, harmless way of just sit in here and close the door and look out on a new world. I don't think we should feel good about it, but that's my piece on
this
it.
is a horrible take, and I'm so sorry, but this episode we're done it a little bit short because we got some pressing engagements, but we don't want to press the engagement without talking about our charity of the month that we are supporting. You have the links and below in the chat, live chat. It is the Dominican Nuns of Marbury, Alabama. It is a sisterhood of nuns who have taken a vow of begging and poverty, and they're very awesome nuns. We actually use them, and we send them donations. We have them pray for us. We try to help them in everything that they do. So it's just amazing that they're able to basically provide us with prayers, and they're not just praying for us, gangs. They're praying for everybody all over the world, because that's kind of like their mission. This religious orders, they're out there and they're basically to themselves praying every day in and day out, for souls to be converted, for people to come to God, but also for the goodness of Christ all over the world. And we just want to support them. There's a PayPal link if you want to support them that way. There's also we'll put it in the after this show ends, I will put it on the chat, their link also, so you can support them. They're a charity of the month, and we can't say enough good things about them. And this is not somebody where they're going to be parading the money around like Haitians in Springfield. They're very they do everything by hand. They cook their own bread. They do all this kind of stuff. So please, if you can give anything, we really appreciate it.
So I just wanted to say that, we will be picking other charities. We started with this one because we really like them. They actually don't know that we're doing this. We haven't told them. We hope that they may, in one of their newsletters, say, hey, we've been getting a lot of donations lately. Praise the Lord, praise God. And that we can let them know at that time, oh, guess what, sisters? We have been lobbying for you to get people's donations. So I hope that you all will think about that. As Christians, we are supposed to give alms, especially as Catholic Christians. It is part of the catechism that one of the pillars of our faith is that we give to the poor, and they are the poor. They really are. They do not have a salary. They don't take one. They live by begging. That's what their order was founded on,
Right.
to rely upon the donations and the kindness of strangers, not strangers, those in the church. That's what they do, and that they would instead pray and fast and offer everything they could for our love of the Lord, for our safety, for the safety of our whole world. We talked about World War III maybe starting. We hope not. Definitely all the nuns and priests of the monasteries and convents, that's literally what they do pray against. That's what they mostly put their efforts into, is peace, praying that we would not live in war. So if you have it in your heart, and I mean, St. Pio, we did celebrate his feast day a few days ago. And also we're going to be soon celebrating the feast of St. Therese on October 1st, a very big feast day. These are awesome modern saints. St. Therese and St. Pio, they both said that when you give money, when you give something that you have to the poor, like Jesus honored the widow who gave her mite, a little bit of money to the temple. He honored her so much by mentioning it in the scriptures. But they said, when you do that, you honestly bring so much grace and favor to yourself, and you keep the devil at bay. The devil is the enemy of our souls, and he honestly is out to get us. That's true. The Bible says that the devil goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour.
Yeah, man.
And honestly, St. Pio and St. Therese says, look, honestly, they're very holy saints. They're almost like doctors. I mean, actually, St. Therese is a doctor of the
It's a
church.
doctor of the church, yeah.
So she actually does know what she's talking about. And she says, when you give alms, you literally fight evil. So you're not just helping them, you're actually really helping yourself. Remember, God will ask you at the final day, I was poor, I was hungry, you gave me no food, I was naked, you gave me no clothes, I was sick and you didn't give me, and you're like, when did I see you that way, Lord? He goes, when you didn't give it to my brother. So this is something you should really consider. When you have a chance to give. And honestly, we have done the work for you. We will not give you the name of a charity that spends 80% of its money on its, foundation head who's making $1 million a year, which is a lot of charities today. And I have to tell you that. I stopped giving to a lot of charities when I found out how they spent the money. I have been down to visit these ladies and sisters, and I will tell you, they are the salt of the earth. They are nuns who gave their whole lives up for Christ. They sit there, they pray. They have a little garden that they eat from. They have a falling down little place, but they're happy and they're holy. They need stuff. Please, if you have it in your heart, look them up and give them a few dollars. They will love you for any amount you give them. If you send them
Anything
50 cents in the mail, that's going to be good enough.
Yeah, and it also is an encouragement to them. I mean, I remember last time I think we gave them, well, the one time it was the air conditioning had gone out, and if you know anything about the Midwest, it's humid and horrible with that air conditioning, and then this time I think it was like the cabinets are so old that they kind of fall apart, and they do like bake bread and stuff like that, not only for the homeless but also for themselves. So it's you kind of we have it easy. We have it easy, and this is one thing. But yet we're running on time here.
Yeah, we gotta go.
We do have Latino side. What's up? Thank you so much for hanging out, boss.
Pasta.
Okay, pasa calabasa. All right, so we usually play something, but we're kind of running low on time on today. I think next week we'll try to spend a little bit of time. Maybe we'll start a little earlier or something like that, and kind of go through our stuff. But Ursula, we're signing off, right?
All right, ciao.
All right, ciao.